Hello and welcome everyone to our inaugural BComm UCC live broadcast. My name is Rosemary Murphy, co-director of the BComm CK201 program with my colleague, Dr. Lawrence Dooley. We hope that everyone found our recent BComm Convention 2021 to be informative and insightful. Our theme of connected curriculum and experiential learning throughout our three webinars was certainly well received by all, and thank you so much for all your lovely comments on that. Well, Lawrence, it's great to see so many students, parents and teachers after logging in with us this morning. And of course, on this end, we have an amazing panel of guest speakers, ranging from academics to employers to current BComm students. I wonder, Lawrence, would you mind introducing everyone?
Thanks very much, Rose, and hello to everybody out there. What we've drawn together a panel today to give you a true colour of the BComm. So I'd like to introduce two of our industry mentors that support the programme. That's Mr. Tony O'Connor, Director of PDI, and Miss Laura Devereux, who's a HR generalist in the company WiseTech. And they'll be talking to you a little bit about the industry perspective and skills development. As well as that, we have our programme placement officer, Dr. Susan Lyons, who will be talking to you about the placement and things like that. And as well as that, the most important people are three of our current students who are amazing students and doing brilliant things. No pressure, guys. That's Armina, Calum and Padraig.
And of course, everyone, as we progress through our talk today, please feel free to type any questions that you may have into the chat function, and we will get to them as soon as possible. So our globally recognized flagship degree program offers 4 distinctive features, and it's these features that are going to form the basis of our conversation here today. So, Lawrence, let us start off with our first unique feature, which is the design of the program. All significant business modules are rigorously covered in the first 3 years of this highly innovative program, and specialization in an employment-led thematic major occurs in year 4. So, Lawrence, what do you think are the benefits that this design brings to our students?
Yeah, firstly, Rose, it's important for people to realize that the BComm program is the gold standard in business education in Ireland since 1906. So most of the industry leaders out there that have a business qualification are from a BComm background. Now, the program has evolved over the years, and its current design is very unique. It's built on 2 pillars. It's built on an academic excellence pillar, which gives the discipline-based modules, and it's also a development pillar built around getting students career ready so that when they hit the workforce, they are ready. That brings me, and that's in the BU modules that we'll be covering later in the capstone. The second important or unique part is that the BComm is a general business degree. So it is designed for students who aren't 100% sure what they want to spend the rest of their lives in. So the program is designed where the first 3 years is a broad business degree where students get exposed to all the facets of business education that they're going to require to be a generalist. And then after that, once they're clear after the end of 3rd year as to where they want to develop their career, whether that be in banking and finance, supply chain, or any of the 5 thematic majors that we have defined, then they can specialize in that and begin to develop their career in that area. So those are the unique aspects that make the BComm so special.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for that, Lawrence. So if you're a student out there at the moment who likes business, who wants to work in business, but who may not know what area of business to specialize in yet, well then the BComm CK201 program is for you. Now, Calum, we might have students listening at the moment who may be saying, well, I actually do know what I want to do. I want to become an accountant. I want to go into HR. I want to go into advertising or supply chain. Would our program have benefits for that category of student?
Sure, absolutely, Rose. And I think I'm a prime example of that. So you love to remind me that when I joined, I wasn't 100% on commerce because I was quite certain I wanted to go into banking and finance, and I thought maybe going straight into the finance degree instead would be better. But I gave it a few weeks, and I was proven wrong, and you were certainly proven right, because you realize with time how important it is to have a great grounding in many areas. So, for example, me in particular, I want to go into finance, but it's not, no job is for life, and no area is isolated. So supply chain comes into that, marketing comes into it. And if you can understand and appreciate what the other departments are doing and what other jobs are like, it not only gives you a good basic understanding for life, but you can also change your mind. So if I might have gone in and said, wow, finance isn't for me, I actually way prefer marketing. And some of my friends have done that. I know people that came in who initially had planned on law degrees through commerce, and now they've gone into marketing, and you have that flexibility. It leaves you those options. And when you think that people might be deciding their careers for life at 18, it's really good to give yourself a few extra years to decide.
Absolutely, you're so right, Calum. And we did have a few conversations about this, Calum, which seems like yesterday, but it was 3 years ago now. And so basically for the student who thinks they do know at the moment what they want to go into, this program is also for you, because first of all, it will give you that flexibility to change your mind in terms of your specialization. And also, even if you don't change your mind, as you progress through your career, you will be on the management team working with people from many disciplines. And therefore, the broad-based business knowledge that you attain in the first 3 years will be crucial to you. And indeed, you will be expected to have it. Tony, as a professional executive coach, what advantage do you think this design will give our BComm graduates out in the workforce?
Yeah, Rose, I think what I've noticed as part of the program is that you are developing well-rounded business graduates, and you're allowing them to experience a number of diverse backgrounds in relation to different business areas, and giving them a lot of knowledge and skill within these areas. So I think when graduates then start to engage with management teams or sit around meeting rooms, they'll be able to converse with other business disciplines with ease. And I think when I look at this program in particular, what you're doing is you're developing both suitability but also eligibility within students. And what I mean by that is that when you consider people's eligibility, it's very much around that knowledge and skill that they have. And the construct of the program is walking people through that over the 4 years. And it's a really strong construct in the sense that the first 2 years are very foundational. By year 3 now, you're starting to experience very different elements. We'll talk about these, I'm sure, later. But by year 4, as Lawrence was speaking, it's now into that major, and it's allowing you then to make informed decisions. So I think what you're doing is then you're building these knowledge and skills, but also the suitability piece that I mentioned. I've heard you speak about the type of graduate. And I think organizations are looking for certain types of individual who fit attitudinally and behaviorally. And I think from hearing you speak and Lawrence, you have a very strong ethos around the philosophy of the type of graduate that you want coming out of UCC BComm. So I think it's the whole system approach, and it's the whole person approach. So I think, for me, that is what has really stood out for me within the process this year.
Fantastic, Tony. And you're so correct there, because employers expect graduates to have a broad-based business knowledge along with their specialization. So it is just expected of them. And that's why our BComm program, CK201, is hitting all those targets. Thank you so much, guys. Our second unique feature relates to a very exciting year in our BComm program, and that is year 3. In year 3, students have opportunities to study abroad for a semester or a year, and they can engage in work placement in the latter part of year 3. So, Padraig, could I come to you next? The study abroad option in year 3 is optional, and you decided to study abroad last year in Boston College. Would you mind telling us, why did you decide to apply for our international element, and also, did it live up to your expectations?
Of course, Rose. I suppose it ran in the family at first. My eldest brother completed a BComm degree and he went to Babson College, Massachusetts, which was the #1 entrepreneurial college in the world. So from that point, I saw what it did for my brother, who's now in a senior position in Diageo, Ireland at the age of 31. So I went to Boston College, Massachusetts. And the reason why is because I was near a lot of academics and it's something I might want to do in the future. So literally just down the road was MIT and Harvard Business School, which was amazing. I suppose as well, it really did live up to my expectations, because really what I wanted was marketing and strategic brand management. But people aren't limited to that. For example, there's so many different institutes that you can go to. People can go to Copenhagen Business School for, say, ethical marketing or CSR activities, or if people wanted to go abroad into the Asian culture, they go to Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. So there is so many options and so many choices. I suppose the other reason, of course, is networking. I've made friends from Melbourne to California. And after graduating from the BComm, I hope to do a master's in the Netherlands, in which case there are people who I met on my Erasmus year who will be going to the same destination. So you really do make lifelong friends after this as well. And it was really, really worth it. One of the best years of my life.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Padraig. And of course, as Padraig said, we have many partner universities for our international element, ranging from Asia to Europe to the States. And when students do opt to go abroad, you work very much with the program directors in selecting your modules, and you're constantly in contact with the directors when you're abroad, as you're still a part of our BComm program. It is also in year 3 that work placement occurs. Armina, you are currently out on work placement. Would you mind telling us where you are at the moment and what type of jobs are you engaging in that organization?
Yes, of course, Rose. So I'm currently 2 months into my placement with PwC in the Department of Deals Advisory. It's been really great so far to get a real insight into all the different aspects of deals, and also to discover components of the work which are either different or similar to my initial expectations. In relation to the work itself, I've been entrusted with a significant amount of responsibility, so I really feel part of the team there. And at the same time, I have high levels of client interaction every day, which is something I'd really hoped for prior to starting placement. I've also had the opportunity to work on engagements that extend beyond the realm of deals, which has allowed me to gain deeper experience and develop skills in other disciplines. But at the same time, keeping in mind that I'm an intern, the team have been fantastic in organizing weekly insight sessions for me, all in an attempt to illustrate exactly what a career in deals would look like, which has been really beneficial for me in deciding if deals is the direction I'd like to take my future professional career in.
Well, that sounds really exciting, Armina. I suppose, could I just ask you, you transferred from being a student to an employee in the workforce overnight. Do you feel detached from our program now that you are out in the workforce?
No, not at all. So I have a workplace mentor at work with whom I'm in contact with almost every day. But in addition to this, I also have an academic mentor from the BComm teaching team. And our academic mentors contact us very regularly to make sure that we're having a satisfactory experience and that we're not encountering any major difficulties.
So you're definitely not on your own, Armina. You have constant support there from the university and from your organization that you're placed with. That sounds fantastic. Susan, as we already know, the BComm enables a diversity of career paths. Can you tell us how is that diversity reflected in the range of companies that you deal with on a daily basis to place our students?
Yes, Rose. The diversity of the BComm degree is reflected in the 100+ employers we engage with regularly. These represent a variety of business sectors, mainly in the financial sector, such as Deloitte, EY, KPMG, PwC, AIB, Central Bank, for example, multinational tech and pharma firms, Eli Lilly, Janssen, Dell, Apple, VMware, the food business sector in Kerry Group, Aldi, Glanbia, Musgraves, Accenture for the innovation and consulting roles, ESB or VIA gas networks for those in utilities, and a range of SMEs with functions in the areas of accounting, marketing, and HR, for example. A student can also source their placement or placement abroad themselves, but this must first be reviewed and approved by the programme directors and placement manager before any commitment is made.
Thank you so much, Susan. And Laura, back to yourself there. As a HR generalist and also a regular interviewer of our BComm graduates, in terms of our study abroad element, what a benefit does that experience bring to our students?
Thanks, Rose. Well, as a HR generalist, I look at a lot of CVs and job applications, and especially at graduate level, it can be difficult to stand out. So if I saw that a student had studied abroad on a CV, it would certainly bring it towards the top of the pile for me. It shows that students are adaptable, they're mature, they're willing to embrace other cultures and learn in different countries. They can see how business is done in different countries, and Padraig mentioned his contacts that he's built up that will certainly help him in the workplace when he moves into his career after his studies. And I think that benefit can't be underestimated. So I know the BComm has contacts with some amazing colleges across the world, and I definitely would take a second look at any application if I saw a student had studied abroad. So a huge benefit, and what an exciting opportunity. Amazing that students can get those places in colleges in different countries, as they can be quite hard to get into normally. So huge benefit.
Thank you, Laura. I think I was having some technical difficulties there on my end. That sounded great. Thank you so much, Laura. And over to yourself, Tony. As a leadership development consultant, how does our type of work placement in our program benefit graduates in the workforce?
The process of her working with PwC. So I think when you look at what's happening in the work placement, the first thing it allows is that facilitation of students to experience the real work-based scenarios. So they go into these organizations, but I think more importantly then it allows them or gives them the ability to showcase their skill sets, and also the knowledge that they've built up over those first 2.5 years within the program. And it also allows them to show themselves in a very positive way to potential employers. So it's a really good opportunity for them to showcase. But in addition, I think it gives them that awareness. So it heightens their awareness of what happens within the workplace. And more importantly, it allows them then to get almost like an expectation of what's going to happen when they go into the workplace, when they complete their degree. But also, I honestly believe it gives them a strong motivation around when they do come back into year 4, the focus that they might have on the different modules and on the majors. I think, and I apologize to Calum, Padraig, and Armina here, but I think they'll grow up a lot in those 6 months working in those organizations. So I think when they do come back and they return into year 4, I think at that stage they have a different perspective, and they're a lot more informed. So when they may start making decisions around their majors and what's next, I think that period of time on their work placement gives them that insight. So I think it's invaluable.
Absolutely, Tony. And that's really the feedback we get back from employers. Those softer skills that they learn out on work placement are really and truly invaluable. And they really link in with our BU, our developmental core modules as well. That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Tony. We actually have some questions after coming in there on the email. So I might just go to 2 questions at the moment. Lawrence, would you mind answering question 1 for me there, please? We have Kevin asking, is the BComm International the same as the BComm degree with an add-on of a language? Now, before you start, Lawrence, can I just say, Kevin, this is a very frequently asked question, so you're not on your own asking that issue. So I think it's very important for all of us to listen to Lawrence's answer on this.
Thanks very much, Rose. Firstly, the BComm International and the BComm are both excellent degrees delivered by the Cork University Business School here in UCC. But they are 2 very distinct degrees. They have their own unique codes in the CAO, and the difference between them is that in the BComm, you can take a language as an extra module. It does incur some minor costs, but you can take a language as an extra module and build that on. But the BComm International is more about a marriage between the language and the business area. So you're getting in depth into the actual language, whether that be French, German, or so on. And they're 2 very distinct degrees. And that's the difference.
That's great. Thank you so much, Lawrence. And Kevin is also asking there, if he takes the BComm International, can he drop the language if he doesn't like it? And unfortunately not, Kevin. You will have to keep on the language if you're taking the BComm International. But let me come back to our own program here, our BComm CK201. And as Lawrence was saying, there is the ability to take on a language as an additional module. Now, this would be in additional to your workload in the BComm, and therefore it would include an additional cost. But Armina, you actually took this path, didn't you?
I did, exactly. So initially I was wondering, should I take BComm with Hispanic studies, because I always wanted to study Spanish. But in the end, exactly as you say, I really wanted to get that deeper understanding of business studies. Whereas I thought in my own time I could research the historical background of the language and the culture of Spain. So since first year and up to now, I've been taking Spanish as an additional module to BComm. And I really recommend that if someone is looking to pursue a language, but also get that really broad and deep understanding into commerce.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much, Armina. And we have another question there from Maria. Thank you so much for emailing in, Maria. And I think this might be a good one for Susan. Maria is wondering, Susan, that she has no contacts in business herself. She doesn't come from a family who has a business, and she really doesn't know anybody who is in business. And she's wondering, will this go against her in terms of trying to find a work placement? And before I hand you over to Susan, Maria, absolutely not. It won't affect you at all, because work placement and seeking a placement is enabled by our program. However, Susan now will tell you how it is enabled by our program.
Yes, hi, thanks, Rose. Absolutely. To reiterate what Rose said, you don't have to have a business background or indeed have any contacts in business for work placement. We work with students to work on their CV, work on their interview techniques from as soon as later in the summer, this summer for the third years. As soon as you get into third year, we have all those resources for students. We would arrange all of the interviews, and we facilitate all of the roles and applications through our placement office from all of the different types of companies. So we certainly get every opportunity to apply to any of the companies that we would interact with and the jobs that we receive throughout the year.
That is fantastic. Thank you, Susan. And indeed, if any student would like to hear more on work placement, please look at episode 1 of our recent BComm Convention, where this issue was discussed in greater detail. Our BComm program constantly maintains and encourages employer input into our academic content. And this brings me on to our third unique feature, which is our active panel of business mentors who are current employers of our graduates and advise and guide our student employment opportunities. Laura and Tony, as employers, could you give us an outside view of the importance of having mentors on a business program?
Laura?
Sure, thanks, Tony. I'll go ahead there. So I think this is really where the BComm distinguishes itself from other business degrees. I spoke to the BComm 4 students a couple of months ago about the modules they were choosing, and I was amazed at how current, how up-to-date all the modules are. I spoke in particular about HR modules and was particularly impressed with the HR or contemporary issues in HRM. It was so current, so up to date, had a lot of elements that I deal with day to day in my own job. So it was excellent to be able to tell students about that, to tell them about different HR roles that they could go into, and how the modules relate to those roles. So I think the BComm just really stands out as an excellent business degree for this reason. They have great ties with mentors across all different industries. I know people that I went to college with and studied BComm with have gone into all different areas. So anything a student, any role a student wishes to know about, there'll be someone that can help them. And Rose has been great to keep in touch and to push myself in touch with students that are interested in HR. And I'm delighted to be able to offer my insight and to help students. It's a great position to be in. So thank you for that, Rose.
A bit like Laura, I think I would concur, and I was a mentor this year, which was really interesting for me, and I was allowed to do it because of the COVID. I do a lot of traveling work and I wasn't traveling, so it was great to get involved. And there was another element to this. There's a guy, Stephen Octon, who I know, and Stephen is from Stephen Octon Limited, who also ran another session for the BComm 4s, and it was already in a session of that transition between the student to an employee. And sometimes people think that this happens instinctively, but as you know, it doesn't. And I'm sure Laura would concur with this. And I think we need to develop these behaviors and these skills that we need. And I thought it was a really interesting insight, hearing Rose talk about the two sessions that Stephen ran. So mentoring to me is invaluable. I started my career a long time ago, and I've had a lot of really good mentors. And I would always encourage people to look at mentoring as a key developmental opportunity. But what I really was impressed with was the amount of mentors that are available to the BComm program, both internally and also externally. And I think it's something that really needs to be encouraged and that students need to embrace, because it facilitates navigation. When you think about mentoring, it's about navigating. It's about people imparting skill and knowledge and their own experiences. So, I concur with Laura saying, absolutely, 100%.
That is fantastic, Laura and Tony. Thank you so much. And of course, we're indebted to yourselves, Tony and Laura, and all our active panel of mentors who constantly help us out in our BComm program and are always so ready to advise our students over the phone or to meet virtually with them. And it really makes a difference. Thank you so much. In addition to providing a broad yet specialized business understanding via our disciplinary modules, our developmental core modules, which we refer to as our BU modules, are provided in each of the 4 years of our degree program, and they focus on students' professional and personal development, as well as enhancing overall graduate employability. Lawrence, could you tell us, why do we have a developmental spine in our program?
Yeah, quite simply, it's to produce career-ready graduates that can hit industry on the run and keep moving in it. The BU modules are spread across the 4 years of the program. So there's one in first year, second year, third year, and fourth year. In first year, they get taught how to research and how to investigate areas. In BU 2001, they get to engage with wider society, to work with social enterprises in organizing events and contributing to society. As we've mentioned before, you know, we have the placement and the international study abroad in year 3, but it all culminates in year 4 with the BU 4000 strategy capstone module, which is an incredibly challenging module for students to undertake. It's undertaken by all students, but it's hugely valuable. They get to work on real live cases like IAG, the parent company of British Airways, or IKEA or KBC, the banking sectors, to delve into the real life problems that they're facing, working in multidisciplinary teams and acting as consultants to these businesses. And they have to come up, solve the real problems, come up with recommendations on what the company should do, and pitch that to a board of directors of the company in a professional manner. So it's all about creating career-ready graduates that know how to behave when they hit the industry and how to excel and impress their employers.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Lawrence. And if any student listening at the moment would like more details on that, please tune into episode 3 of our recent BComm Convention, where we looked at those developmental core modules and the employment readiness of our program. Padraig, as a BComm 4 student, did you find our disciplinary modules blended well with our developmental core modules?
I definitely think it did, Rose. I think it's important to reiterate the fact that strategizing is core to the BComm, and I'm sure Lawrence and Laura and Tony would all agree that, you know, uncertainty seems to be the only consistency around now. So using strategy in a lot of the different modules is imperative to actually learning more from them in any of the different majors. So the marketing, HR, supply chain, banking and finance. I suppose one of the modules I always go back to is the food choice analysis module with Joe Bug. And a lot of the time we're looking at major emerging trends, and you need to strategize in this environment because, you know, you're changing strategies every second day, especially during the COVID climate. And it's important to learn skills like resilience and adaptability during these times, especially in the Irish whiskey industry, what we're learning at the moment. For example, we got the CEO of Douglas Hyde Whiskey in to speak to us about the current climate. And I found myself transferring a lot of the skills I learned from the BU component into this module. So the skills you learn from one module aren't limited to that specific region. They're really practical in nature, and you could take it outside to the industry standard as well. And it was shown in a lot of the modules in commerce.
Thank you so much, Padraig. And it's great to hear there's such a cohesiveness between all the modules our students take in each of the years. Tony, over to yourself. In conjunction with BU 1000 this year, which is our developmental core module to our first years, we hosted a business plan competition for the first time ever.
Absolutely.
This competition was very heavily mentored because we did appreciate that these were first year students, and mentoring was provided by program directors, past BComm graduates, yourself, Tony, as Director of People Dimensions International, and also John O'Boyle, Director of Belbin Ireland and Exenergy Consulting. Would you mind, Tony, very briefly telling us a little about what this competition entailed, and more importantly, highlight what benefits did the students get from this mentoring at such an early age in the programme?
Yeah, it was fascinating. And again, thank you for asking me to be involved with this year, because I really enjoyed being part of it. But we did it in the virtual context. And, you know, yourself and Lawrence having the foresight to do this was tremendous. And we put these teams together predominantly from Munster, but I was working in different teams, and somebody from Kerry, from Waterford, from Limerick, Tipperary, and obviously Cork itself, had never met each other, but had come together to work on a business plan. And because of the competition, it was really good because we dealt with real companies. We also dealt with, real strategic processes, and we used two methodologies, and we used three mentors primarily, and then John came in from Belbin as we worked through it. And, as the mentors, our jobs was really to stimulate these business ideas, but to develop entrepreneurial thinking, strategic process as well. As a first year student was fascinating, but to increase the confidence of the students, but also then to look at enhancing team working, and fundamentally then to come with a plan and a presentation at the very end of it. And all this in the virtual world. So we as mentors, our job was really to facilitate that kind of transfer of knowledge and skill, but also the academic rigor that we brought into it, from your own perspective and Thomas. And then we had the business applicability, which I think for me was the piece I really enjoyed. And then that other idea around the planning skills, leadership skills, evaluation, critical thinking, analytical, team development, implementation, all these type of skills that we were imparting to them. But there was one big thing, one big benefit. We used Belbin Ireland, and Belbin is the #1 team role theory and team role process in the world at the moment, developed in Cambridge University in Henley in the 80s. And the first time ever, a university, first year students used this process. And it allowed the students to get insight into their knowledge, into their behaviors, their preferences, how they contributed within teams, but also their allowable weakness. So, and if your team had a strength that you didn't have, well, then delegate that strength within the context of the team. So it was invaluable, and I think they got a lot of benefit. And some of the sessions I had, hearing them speak around the type of careers that they might be now thinking about based on Belbin. And I think that was really innovative from your perspective. And it was really interesting for me. I was talking to my clients, and, a few I mentioned, RSA 123.ie in the insurance sector, Apple in the tech sector, J&J within the pharma sector, and Musgraves locally here in Cork. And they were fascinated. They thought it was absolutely incredible what you were doing within the context of first year students. So all in all, a super process.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Tony, and for all your help in that process. For more information on that, please stay tuned to episode #2 of our BComm Convention. The BComm program in UCC is in existence for over 100 years. It transcends generations and is progressively run to meet the ever-changing demands of industry. The CK201 program is a challenging one, and it is designed for motivated students who want to make a future impact on the business world. Lawrence, I think, is going to tell us about the diversity of business careers that are enabled by our program, Lawrence.
Yeah, the joys of technical issues. Yeah, the BComm program enables a diversity of career paths, from banking to consultancy, from teaching to actual entrepreneurial startups. In terms of a career path, the sky's the limit, and truly the world is your oyster.
Fantastic. So if you want to become an ambitious, action-orientated, forward-planning, critical thinker, we will see you in September.
Yeah, and just, Rose, I'd like to thank all the teachers and parents and students who've logged in this morning, or who may be listening back to the recording. The BComm is a great program. You will make lifelong friends. You will engage with societies here in UCC that will create the times that you will look back on when you get as old as me. And, it's a really great experience, and we look forward to seeing you.
Absolutely, Lawrence, and we'd like to thank all the parents and teachers and students for logging in this morning with us. And a huge thank you to our panel of guest speakers this morning, to Susan, to Tony, to Laura, to Armina, Padraig and Calum. And of course, in the meantime, guys, if anybody would like to ask a question, please don't hesitate to contact bcomdirector@ucc.ie. We would also advise students to look at our BComm convention from last year, 2020, and from this year, 2021, to discover more information on the programme. Well, I think that's it, Lawrence. I think we're finished. So thank you so much for everything, guys. A big thank you to Cubs Media, Nicola and Aoife, and our very own Honora in the background. And we hope to see you all again in September. Bye for now.
Bye for now, guys.